Hi, welcome back to the Watercolor Westport Stories podcast. We are in a new model home today that we would love for you to come and visit and explore for yourself. But primarily today we are here to build community and to introduce you to someone who has been part of the story of watercolor pretty much since inception. And it's our pleasure and privilege to introduce you to Zach Shea. He is a realtor with Rideau Realty and lives in the greater Westport area. So welcome, Zach.
Thanks for having me.
It's so fun to be here together.
Yeah.
I know that it's been a lot of back and forth in terms of discovering when you meet a builder in a new development in watercolor, which is, here we have Stephen Rolston, founder and visionary behind Land Ark Homes, again with us today. Just that whole journey of coming together to be part of the Land Ark team in a unique way. Mm-hmm. And I'm really so glad to have you here with us today. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, thanks for having me. Looking forward to chatting.
Yeah. Tell me, I'd like to back up a little bit though, and what was the inspiration to get into real estate as a career?
It totally came from nowhere, to be honest. Like I never, like going through high school, it was never a thought. I mean, I'm originally from Nova Scotia. We moved here about like 2004 maybe. Okay. I was 13, 14 years old. So I was here through like high school and then went to Queens and Kingston for university. And I mean, at the time I wanted, like the plan was to go to med school, was what I wanted to do. I did like my undergrad was in life sci and then it was about my third year in, then I was like, oh no, never mind regarding the medical route. And so I was very interested in like neuroscience and neurosurgery. Like that was kind of what I had hoped to go towards. So I had lots of psychologies as electives.
Okay.
And then just once I realized that I wasn't going to switch, I was going to switch out of life science, then the easiest route was just to transfer to psychology. So I graduated with a major in psychology, and then I was still very involved with the community while I was in university. Okay. So like I helped coach the high school basketball team with Scott, who is the owner of Rideau Realty, the brokerage I'm at. So he was my coach in grade 9 basketball, and we stayed close throughout. And after my first year university, I commuted. So I was here, so I helped him coach like early on. And then it was just one time we were driving to a basketball tournament in Ottawa together, and he asked me what I planned on doing. I said, I have no idea, because I'm not gonna, psychology degree doesn't mean anything if you don't get your master's or anything like that.
It's a wonderful foundation for many things.
But unless you're gonna, and I didn't want to keep going that route in school and stuff. And then, anyway, so he had mentioned, he's like, you'd make a good realtor. So then, as I was in my last year university, I did. At this time, you could pretty much do a lot of it online to get your real estate license.
Okay.
You had to kind of go in for the exams and stuff like that, but the actual like learning you did online. So I did it in my last year, and then I got my license when I was 23. So here I'm in like 12 years as a realtor, which is a third of my life, which sounds insane. And I mean, it is wild because I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Like it is the perfect job for me. I absolutely love it, and I'm so happy that I did get into it.
It's interesting because it's the idea of the direction that different people come from in your industry. It is very diverse, but it's really neat that you providentially had someone in your life who gave you that inspiration.
And I mean, like, because it was funny because I always laugh because like to get your real estate license, you need a high school diploma. And then I always think like you have all this OSAP and like student loans and stuff. And then I'm doing a job that you don't need any of that for. But as I look back, definitely the psychology degree and the experience from university, like I wouldn't have been able to do this without it.
Yeah. Fast forwarding through that season of your life would have not prepared you as well as you are today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
And tell us where you grew up.
Yeah, so I'm from Gaisborough County, which is the most reference for people will be like Antigonish, like St. FX University. So we're about like 35 minutes from there, kind of right in that bay where Cape Breton meets the mainland.
Okay.
And we lived in the middle of nowhere, essentially. Like it was, my grandfather was, I say as a kid, it was definitely, like when we go back to visit every year, and it's like, this isn't as bad as I remember. in terms of not being able to do anything. But so when we moved here, again, it was grade 8, and we lived in Portland.
Okay.
And
That's about, for reference for our audience, that's about 5 minutes from here, maybe 8.
And it was, for me, Portland was like a city. It was insane, like how, like I had a friend that lived right beside me. You could bike to, like I'd bike to school, could bike to the beach in Portland, and so now like Portland is definitely not a city, but that was like my like frame of a reference from coming from, like if you want to go play with a friend, like you're 20 minutes away and someone has to drive you and it's a bit of a big deal. Nothing like you didn't do it as often sort of thing. And my grandfather was a farmer and we lived across from him.
Okay.
So we were really, really tucked back. So.
So coming to Ontario and then going to Queen's University, Kingston is a major center and Queen's is a world-class university. That was a different experience for you as well.
Well, and for me, like I'm a country guy through and through. Like the city is not for me. Both my brother and sister, they lived in Toronto. I think I maybe visited them. Like they went there for school, and I maybe visited them 2 or 3 times. Like I couldn't do it. I did not like it. But for me, like Kingston is the perfect size, and I love just living outside, and like that's one thing. So I mean, we're 35 minutes from Kingston.
Right.
For the last 15 years, we go to Kingston regularly. Like I go to the Kingston in the morning for the gym. I would commute to school. Like it is nothing for me, like that drive part. So like this is like I couldn't imagine living in another spot other than Rideau Lakes. It's perfect for my lifestyle.
Yeah, and the hub that it
families.
is. And I think that gives inspiration for people because oftentimes they're concerned about that remote aspect of living and feeling isolated. And to put it in context, I know you grew up in the GTA, so a 35-minute commute is nothing really. And even in Ottawa now, in smaller cities, commuting 35 minutes is not a big deal.
And when I moved 35 years ago to Stittsville from Oakville, people were so spoiled in Ottawa. They would say, "Oh, I'm so hard done by. My commute is more than 20 minutes.
Yes.
And my cottage, if they were lucky enough to have a cottage, it's 45 minutes away." And they made it sound like 45 minutes was like a big ordeal, or this 20-minute commute was a big ordeal. But yes, all depends on your family of origin and your perspective. But so many people in Ottawa, they view Rideau Lakes as sort of the Muskokas of Eastern Ontario. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that, because I think that would be good for a lot of our viewers to realize just how big and diverse Rideau Lakes Township is.
Because you have a deep understanding from a real estate point of view and the geography and what the catchment area is and all of the things that go into making an investment decision in a home in the Rideau Lakes.
And that's so I love being a realtor, but I say that I love being a realtor in Rideau Lakes. Like I couldn't imagine being a realtor in Toronto, even in like I do some stuff like near Ottawa with certain buyers that like are looking up there. Like I will go and show them stuff like that. That's no problem. But it is a very different atmosphere and environment. It's like selling in a place like that as opposed to here, where I mean like we spend the day going and looking at like beautiful waterfront properties, and like it's very relaxed, and it is not that hustle and bustle. It can be competing for everything with a million different people and trying to get there like the second it, like we kind of saw that during COVID. That was very much how it was, but as we've kind of phased out of that, kind of getting back into the calmness of it, and
a more balanced market, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. For the viewers, the region that you cover, though, from a real estate point of view, in terms of accepting listings and being able to list homes and help them to transition to maybe watercolor or other communities in the area, what's sort of the...
And maybe I could touch on that, and then you could explain further, Zach. We've been mentored by some amazing realtors like Randy Richardson, who started Richardson Real Estate in Stittsville. And when we moved there, he was an appraiser who followed us around and informed us. And since my wife was a realtor for 2 years before she joined Land Ark full-time, we've been inundated with incredibly wise real estate professionals. And one of them, when we were starting here, informed us the majority of our customers are going to come from within an hour and a half radius. And that's why you've are in the process of listing one of our buyers here, their home in Picton. And I think that idea of Zach being our go-to guy for any of these people that want to move, and especially move into a move-in ready home where they can have that certainty of closing a home, selling their home if they price it right within 30, 60, 90 days, and moving into a move-in ready home that they can see fully finished and fully furnished. And the fact that Hannah, your wife, is helping stage these homes is quite a interesting family dynamic. But going back to that idea of listing within an hour and a half radius, like...
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of like my real estate license, the real estate licenses are provincial. So I'm licensed to sell anywhere in Ontario. With that, it's the market like you want to do your clients a service, right? And
sure.
I couldn't do them service with a market I have no idea on. So that's kind of essentially the market you cover is how far you're willing to go. And I mean, and that's something that changes when I was younger, like when I just started out, like I wouldn't say no to any listing. Like I would go anywhere, any buyers want to look, we'll go. And like at one point I had a listing in Bath, in Land Ark Highlands, and in Prescott at the same time. And that at that time, like that'd be a lot to do now.
That's a lot of driving, yeah.
But that's kind of now, like, so at Rideau Realty is the brokerage I'm at. We kind of specialize in waterfront. That's our niche. So we know the waterfront market very well. But yeah, essentially kind of like hour, 45 minutes within there. So kind of like beyond Kingston, especially because like South Frontenac, there's lots of lakes up there, and we do lots of waterfront property up there. And then kind of beyond Smith Falls, Perth in there.
Sure.
You have the ability to choose what you want to do a little more as you've been working a bit longer and not doing those 2 hour long
From
listings
your
when you have
career point of view, absolutely.
a wife with 3 little kids at home doesn't like that as much.
That's right. No, I can imagine. Yeah. But it's interesting when you say you specialize in waterfront, because I think that's what we're experiencing here in watercolor is those individuals who are looking to get that home and cottage in one experience. I'd love to hear your perspective on some of those transitions that you've helped people make.
That would have been probably one of the bigger surprises, I think, even like from phase one at the start is like, I remember like just coming here, because when we kind of met by chance. Like I know I was a referral from like a few different people, but like our first connection was in the village. I was putting a sold sign up on a listing I had there, and then he's in his truck on the other side of the road. He's like, "Are you Zach?" And then he's like, "Oh, I've heard about you." And then that's how the whole thing started.
Okay, back up. I feel like I missed a whole bunch of story here.
Well, maybe I can just explain to the viewers and listeners.
Absolutely.
Through a mutual friend, Paul Miller, Pastor Paul Miller at the Westport Free Methodist Church.
Yes.
When we were doing prayer walks over this land for many, many years, he informed me just a story about a young person he knew, Zach, and how successful Zach had been in listing a home for a widow for a certain sum of money that was perhaps 25% more than other local realtors were going to list it for.
Okay.
And sure enough, the home did sell. And I thought, well, when we spark it up again here in a year or two or whatever, I want that guy on our team. And sure enough, providentially, we met that day, and it's been smooth sailing ever since. And we just want to refer everybody and anybody to Zach.
I love that. That's a great story.
But then with that, because like our first kind of conversations was, I think you'd mentioned that same thing about like thinking that people like close to your,
let's go back to that idea of the consolidation of the home and cottage, because it's such a big
I do remember like my first like initial thought thinking of like, depending on price points and stuff like that, like you might not get as many local people. They might be more people coming from the city and whatnot. But that was a big surprise too. Like the amount of people from kind of more the Ottawa area, but then like this side of Ottawa still. And we did have, because one of I think probably the toughest thing at the start would be, so this was my first time with any, like, I mean, a subdivision in Rideau Lakes. It wasn't like an option, right? Like maybe Smith Falls has some stuff, but like not really anything I'm familiar with or used to. And so to start trying to sell stuff where you haven't even seen anything yet is very, like, it's hard to wrap your head around.
Yes. Those pioneer people that kind of said, oh, I'm going to go out on a limb here and buy a home.
The founders.
Yeah.
Those founders, and we tried to actually represent some things about the founders even in our home plaques. They have the one little acorn because they were here when we were just little bitty acorns and as we're growing. So,
And so I had did my research before and looked, and I was like, they seem like they're these homes that they built are beautiful and this, but you still haven't seen it. And there's a few kind of great things that happen. One would be, has Mona had a podcast? Has Mona been interviewed?
Oh yes.
Yes, if you haven't watched our podcast episode with Mona, go back. It's one of the first ones we've aired, so you can go back and learn a little bit more about Mona's story.
So Mona was the perfect person to have as the first, being a local person, familiar with it, the whole, it was just a seamless transition and everything was great. And then it was kind of for her to have the leap of faith too, to purchase without having seen anything. So that was a great start. And then the amount of people from Stittsville who were coming from a previous Land Ark home, then that just made everything so much easier. There was one couple in phase 1, they came in, they said, yeah, we live in a Land Ark home in Stittsville now, we'll take this lot and this is the house. They didn't even walk in anything. They're we know how great they are, we've been in it, and we'll buy this one.
Cornelia and Richard Schuster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so as a realtor, when you're seeing things like that and real life testimonials, there's no question about he's a great builder and these are going to be great homes, sort of thing. So it definitely was a good start that way, and then it just all kept going.
Yeah. And do you think that those people that have made those decisions to do that home and cottage in one consolidation, are they living an experience that you think is meeting their expectations? You know the village, the region,
Yeah, because because there's even, again, there was one, even from phase 1, a couple, they had a place on the lower Rideau.
Okay.
And then for them, it was a maintenance thing. It was a lot of property. They still wanted to be on the water. They wanted to be close, but not necessarily have all that maintenance. So this was perfect for them. We listed their house kind of conditional, or purchased this conditional on selling it. It sold and everything is great. But we do kind of see that too. A lot of people who are we love being on the water. We don't really want to give it up, but this lifestyle makes so much more sense, and we're still so close to be able to do everything. It's a good trade-off. So
that's really great.
And this is where hashtags will come in important in these podcasts. On Monday, Tuesday, Victoria told us with great delight that someone, when we shouted out the Not So Big House book,
oh yes,
they've come and they're interested in buying a home, and they've been shouting out that book to anyone who's building a home or a cottage. So I guess they're selling a home and a cottage and consolidating here with the expectation, if that builder knows about that book, they're our kind of builder. And that's why we always keep them on the coffee table. And I think similarly of how many people, want to consolidate. They want to have their home and their cottage in one. Yeah. And so many times we've seen it that they've either transitioned to their cottage full time and then they're coming here, and they're so happy to give up waterfront for watercolor because of the connection and the community. And that's what they're gaining here, is they've loved their time on the lake, they love their time on the water, but as couple after couple after couple say, they're not giving up the water because they're so close to Sand Lake, and they go swimming in Sand Lake and boating, as we hear time after
the
time.
harbor's a 10-minute walk. So you can easily get to the waterfront with your morning coffee, or your and your friends are there, and your family can gather, or you can keep a boat in the harbor. I guess there's boat slips for rent, and that kind of thing can happen. That can be part of your lifestyle.
Yep, absolutely.
Which is really beautiful, because you don't have to take that dock in and out and figure out how to.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of.
It's a lot of waterfront maintenance that has to happen. Yeah. The whole Rideau Lakes area, though, has little pockets of beauty, and as a local, and you've lived here a long time, what are some of those little gems that you enjoy, that if you were looking for somebody that was going to live in the area, that they should just come and check out if they've never been before?
Yeah, I mean, so we're very young family. I have a 2, 4, and 6-year-old, so our life revolves around taking them to different parks, essentially. So, I mean,
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
What a great experience
But
they're
Elgin,
having.
like they're in Elgin, like Sand Lake, like on the Rideau system, Sand Lake, they have
Yes.
a beautiful park in there, and a beach. Like the kids go there for swimming lessons and stuff. And it's one thing you might not even really know it's there, and because it's kind of up a back road, and you wouldn't know unless like they do day camps and a couple other camps there, and kind of advertise it that way. But it's definitely it's a great spot for the kids, and yeah.
Those wholesome kind of activities that you want to do, and they're close to home.
Yeah, and then even like Conlin Farm in Perth.
Conlin Farm?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. They have a wonderful park there, a little splash pad and stuff, and even like Smith Falls. So just out but Smith Falls has some. I know I think I saw they have like a park there, but they're supposed to be kind of redoing the splash pad stuff of that, but yeah, kids love that part of it. And stuff.
Lots of fun pursuits, and I know you're very physically active, so you have your running trails and your whatever other pursuits to keep fit and well. Yeah. What do you think of when you think of the advice you've had to give over the time of making that transition to the right size house? What are some of those preparatory things that, like, realtors are trusted advisors. You have to handhold people through some of the biggest decisions. And that's probably where the psychology training comes in really helpful, because sometimes we don't know how to think things through and we need that guidance. What are some of the things you've had to, or that you've found in your experience are good preparations for people when they're wanting to make a big transition?
Like a lot of it would be just people, like the amount of stuff, and I'm guilty of this, like my wife and I, the amount of stuff that we have that we do not need. So like that would be one part, even if you are just to, like where you're living, where you are, get rid of a bunch of stuff. Just to kind of see like, hey, this is what we actually need. And then, because that's what, like you get, say someone's coming from a big property and like they're looking at places, or like I like the idea of downsizing, but where's everything gonna go? Like that could, rather than going in with that mindset of like, I need to fit all my stuff. If you didn't have as much, then it kind of makes it easier to pitch like, hey, these are what I need. This does make sense that I can bring it. And it's always a great time to do, like we all need to go through our stuff and realize we have way more than we need. So it's a good exercise to kind of clean some stuff up anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure we could all take a lesson in the more of less, but
exactly. So, we're going to hashtag this, the more of less, how the life you want is buried under all the stuff you own. And that's a wonderful book by Joshua Becker. Yeah. Because maybe somebody's going to bump into us through or be helped on their next right steps, be it with us or anywhere with you, maybe.
Yeah, because even like when people are getting ready to list, like that's one of the big, like aside from if you're doing other like house reno stuff,
right,
one of the biggest things is just to get rid of the clutter. And then by doing that, you can see like, hey, not only how much better the home looks, but like we don't need all that extra stuff. And then you get people kind of happy, like, hey, this is pretty cool.
This was a good decision anyway. Whether I move or not, I'm happier in my house that I'm in.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And in terms of those, so you've done that, and then some of the stages that people go through, maybe you could describe that sort of home buyer journey if you're selling an existing property and moving either to watercolor. What are some of those steps? And I know I've read some of the reviews about you personally, Zach, and people say you do an outstanding job of communicating and keeping people informed at every stage of that process. So if you kind of back it up and explain some of the process, that would be really helpful.
Well, and even like, because that's something that I pride myself on, being having my license at such a young age.
Yes.
I knew that if that is an easy thing to do. It's my pet peeve if you're trying to deal with a mortgage, like anything, and then they're not getting back to you, even if it's not bad news, you don't have any news, like I appreciate the update.
Right.
So that was one thing when I started, is I really wanted to make sure like, hey, I will be the absolute best realtor possible. I'm 23. These people could have 3-5 homes that they want to buy, sell, especially when it's waterfront. You have people buying, like they buy their first home, then they decide they want a cottage, they buy a starter cottage, then they're like, hey, let's sell both the home and the cottage and buy a home on the water. Like it was to try to, and then it's such a better way to do business anyway. It's just kind of stuck on forever. But
absolutely.
But yeah, the biggest thing I guess would be you want to know what you should be looking at. And that's like most people now. It was one thing kind of during COVID where the whole buying, you just had to know, hey, we're buying it and then we'll figure it out after. That was kind of the mentality you had. If you waited a little bit, it was going to be gone if it was a home you really wanted.
Right.
So like pre-COVID, now post-COVID, it's kind of back to like, hey, we want to buy this, but we do have a place to sell and we need to sell it before we do that.
Okay.
So sometimes you get people looking at certain homes, but if you need your home to sell for a certain price and like you're looking at what you in the perfect world, but you're not going to get it, then you're just kind of wasting your own time and getting your hopes up. Because that can be, you start showing people some really nice homes, then they realize, no, actually this isn't, we heard back from the mortgage broker, this isn't and then it makes it harder to look at some of those other homes when they're comparing to what they started with. So you do want to kind of know, this is what we're looking for, this is what we're comfortable with at the start, and then that's kind of
pre-qualify on the price point, and then move forward. So that's the first step, is figure out what you qualify to buy.
And figure out what your house is worth, because that's been such a frustration for so many buyers, is, they're not going to get what they were going to get during COVID. It might be 10% less or 20% less or 30% less. And that's a real frustration for many buyers, is they have an unrealistic expectation. And it's not that it's greed, although you can't really see greed in the mirror. And I can say that because I was one of the world's greediest people. And then God sort of broke me of that with this going on this giving journey. But it's interesting how all of us, unless, someone sets us straight with a realistic expectation based on market data. And I'm so impressed by what you're doing for the couple in Picton. Can you just explain what you did for that couple? Because that was incredible, just you giving all the data to me to know that they're on the right track. Just all the comparables, and the time that those comparables took to sell.
Yeah. Because that's, if you have in your head an idea of what you think, and then that's what you're using it. Because one of the biggest things that we see from like a seller's standpoint is a lot of it, like we see, or sellers are comparing, a lot of times I go on realtor.ca and you're seeing the active listings, right?
Right.
So they're comparing their home to this other home that's listed, and anybody can ask whatever they want for their home, right? It does not, like, as a seller, you want to be comparing your home to other comparable properties that have sold, not that are listed.
Correct.
So that is a big thing that sellers kind of get caught going down a tunnel. It's like, hey, this one beside me is listed at, say, 1 million, 1.3.
Right.
Mine's 10 times better than that. It must be 1.5. It's not necessarily that yours is 1.5. It's that one shouldn't be 1.3, whatever it is. And then, so once you start actually showing them, hey, these are similar properties to yours. This is what they've sold for. This is what they have. This is what they don't have. You adjust price for that way. Like, this is kind of a more fair, based on these, they all kind of sell in that same time frame, and to give them definitely a more realistic expectation based on actual solds and not kind of hopes. And that was one thing, because that was hard, and truly for sellers too, like right out of COVID was very tough for that. And that's what, like, it was a very interesting year, because as sellers, the only kind of market data you have to find comparables are COVID pricing, right?
Right.
So that year was really weird. There was a lot of listings listed very high and sitting there. And then as kind of the years have gone, and now you're looking like, hey, this is post-COVID pricing. Here's 10 comparables. This is what they sold for. It all lines up. And then that people are having a more realistic idea now too, which makes it better.
And it creates confidence that they're making a good decision too, because the last thing you want to be is the person that makes, that chooses to sell their home for what you might believe is underpriced, and then you feel like you've given something away. But if you have the information and the research to make a better decision, then you actually can move forward. Otherwise, you're paralyzed by false expectations.
Yeah, like when we kind of price properties for people, we'll give you the comparables, like this is what we're going on. If you agree with it or you don't agree with it, this are what the properties are selling for. But we always do still show you, hey, these are the other active listings. These are ones that are similar to yours. This is what they're asking. There's a good chance that if someone looks at yours, they might look at this thinking it's comparable. So you don't want to be that one that's listed way too high that makes everything else look better, and then they're the ones selling, right? Like you want to be able to use those and price yourself strategically where you're priced better than something that's overpriced and yours a better home anyway, but you're still priced fair. And then, because it is still like there, especially in like for like this area, there are a ton of buyers. It is all a matter of being priced right, because you still have sometimes buyers are worried about pricing it too low and like, hey, we don't want it. But it is not like you're going to price it too low. It's going to sit for 30 days and then sell for even less. Like if a property is priced truly too low, like you will still have multiple offers and that will drive the price up. There are so many buyers. The buyers are smart. They'll see that like, hey, this is underpriced, there is value in there for us, and then they move ahead. So that still happens very much.
And are you seeing that demographic shift, or geographic shift of, not demographic, but geographic shift of people still looking within the Rideau Lakes area, and that there is interest and there are buyers waiting on the doorstep?
And that's what, like, so I can only speak to what I know, but like I feel like Rideau Lakes is pretty protected from that. Like a lot of things that people like see online about like the market, right? Like they're like Toronto, Ottawa, like Rideau Lakes is very different than that. Like
and it is a world-class place. And that's what if I can jump in.
Yeah, please do.
Did a little research because Kevin and I are finally going to do our Seabrook style presentation.
Oh, I can't wait.
And so Zach's
awesome.
been learning about a lot of these communities that have inspired us, like Serenbe, we shouted out last time we were doing the podcast. This time, Seabrook is this company on the west, or a community on the west coast of Washington State. And they're 3 hours Portland, 3 hours Seattle, more or less, plus or minus. And they're catering to a recreational audience. And it's a recreational community that's one of these walkable communities, and it's lovely. And Casey Roloff, the founder, has about 500 homes there, 25 a year, 20 years later. And so it too is sort of a benchmark of what we're trying to do. But when I Googled for our presentation, how many people live within a 3-hour drive of Westport? Well, it's 12 million people. Some would say it's 15 million people, depending on which, AI I'm using to help me with my query and when I'm driving, 3 in the morning or is it middle of traffic during the day? But then also there's 50 million Americans that are within an 8-hour drive. And many of them have been coming here for 5 generations and they have dual citizenship. And because of its 200-year history, it is a world-class destination known by many and loved. But relatively speaking, on the other hand, you could also make the argument nobody knows about Westport because it's this geographically isolated place that's not north of Toronto and it's not northwest of Toronto. It's in this little enclave that now Montreal people are discovering it and saying, oh, it's kind of like the Eastern Townships. There's these towns that were part of the founding of the Rideau Canal Waterway that make it so unique and different in Eastern Ontario.
So do you think, if you feel that way from a real estate point of view, that it's a protected little community that like is insulated from some of those big blows of what happens in the condo market in Toronto? Or
Exactly, because like the two big things would be like the waterfront thing in general. Like a lot of times, like the buyers looking at certain waterfront properties, they're not as affected as, say, like younger family at like a first-time home buyer. Like they're very different. Like how the interest rate affects them very different, right? So typically, if you're looking for a second property on the water that's $1 million, like you're not in the same situation as a certain person who's like, hey, I have a $6,000 budget. This is like very different. So from the waterfront side there, like that part is still over here has been fine. And we are very like the first time market for Rideau Lakes is still very, very strong. in terms of like as a place that people can come to. Like that's always as a younger realtor, I guess, like Kingston is expensive. So like people who like, hey, we can't really trying to be a first time home buyer, we can't afford Kingston. So like they kind of push this way, and then so like it definitely has drove the first time like the price up to what it used to be, but definitely way more attainable than Kingston, and people trying to just like, hey, well, it'd be worth it. We can buy a home, drive the 35-40 minutes to work, as opposed to be house poor trying to buy in Kingston for a place we don't love anyway. So that part is that part for Rideau Lakes is great.
There's a lot to be said for living where you love.
Oh yeah.
Your home.
Yeah.
It's one thing to buy a house. It's another thing to have a home and a place that you feel that you can put down roots, and a community that you can invest in, and also experience the joy of participating in a quality of life that's different too. I think that for some buyers, though, when they buy into a new development, maybe they feel that there's some risks there. What are some of those things that you feel like you've walked people through from a new development in an old historic village? Because really there hadn't been new homes in Westport for, we keep saying 100 years, but maybe it was even longer. I think Mark Snyder might have corrected me on that once before.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest kind of hesitation for some people was just, where is Westport, like compared, like, so, and that's where it's just like, if they just are looking at like like everything you need is still here. If you want a Costco, if you want something bigger like that, like you are close to it. But that would just, if you are coming from, say, Toronto, where you've always, everything has been right there, it takes some getting used to, and like, like, hey, this can be possible. But like that would be probably the only real biggest stumbling block for some people. Just like, hey, everything is, but we do still want to go. They want some nightlife, maybe that, not just the Cove or something, some other things to do, but yeah.
Do you think that the home buyer journey with Land Ark to buying a net zero ready home is any different? And what have you had to educate yourself about when it comes to what's integrated into these homes, because they are unique?
Yeah, and I think like it's for like this kind of the state of the world right now, like net zero, right? Like people are very energy conscious, and that's been a great thing. So it's just another feature. I don't know so much that I'm sure there's been a couple of people, or the odd person that are like, hey, we're here because of net zero ready. A lot of things, and it just ends up being like such a better feature. Like, hey, we want, that was one of probably the biggest surprises at the start too, was thinking, when we first was talking to Stephen about the development, was thinking about like, if someone is looking to move to Rideau Lakes, they're looking at watercolor, or they're thinking like some resale property. Like there is a pretty big difference there.
Yes.
But that would be one thing that I realized that I did not know, is that the same buyer is not looking at both of those things. If you're looking at new builds, you're not comparing it to, okay, I want to go to Westport and this is something else I could get at that same kind of price range. It is like, hey, I want a new build. I'm either going to Kingston or Perth or Ottawa, and this is what I'm spending there. I found they are comparing it to other new builds. They're not comparing it to the area and resale and that. So that's a big thing there, which makes it a lot easier. It's not like you're trying to, when people come in here to look, you're not kind of arguing with them about like, hey, another price about other properties. It's like they know, hey, we've looked at other places in Kingston. This is what they're at. This is way nicer and it's cheaper. And so that's a big thing.
And actually, we even now have one couple who are, we hope, selling their home with a very aggressive or realistic price. Some would say it's aggressive. They want to be here in the middle of March in the Benson. And we think they're actually spending more money to come here because they see the value. And they bought another home builder's home in Stittsville, but they're spending more to come here because they see the value. And they've been in a builder model home before, and they want a new build, and they know the advantages of buying a move-in ready home, and they've already done it. And now they're spending more to come here because they have fallen in love with Westport. And that's why I think of Andrew Douglas, who we also need to have on this show.
We do.
Because
shout out to you, Andrew. You're going to be our next guest.
As he said, you tell me about a beautiful community and you tell me about beautiful homes, I'm in. Like, tell me more. Like, I'm interested. But you tell me about net zero, it's like, yeah, it kind of goes over their head. You know, it's just not relevant. But you tell me about a beautiful community that's in a beautiful location, I might be interested, you know?
And that's what you're not like, I don't think that if someone is driving by, they see the signs and then they come in and visit and you're taking them through the homes, they're not going to buy it because they look at the utility room and see how like efficient this looks and stuff. Like you're gonna like, hey, we love Westport, these homes are beautiful. Like that is like a great secondary, like this is like, there's no competition when it comes to these things, but like they're buying it for the overall kind of beauty and everything else, and that's just an added bonus.
Right, but you alluded to it a minute ago where you said that in the environment that we're living in, people are more energy conscious. So when you're looking at homes with potential buyers, whether it's resale or a new home like with watercolor, people must be asking the question, what does it take to run this thing? And how much energy am I going to spend? What are my utility costs going to be? Am I going to be wasting energy because I want to be environmentally sustainable? Do I have an EV charger in my garage because I want to drive an EV and be, you know?
The fact of thinking that you're buying a home that's just electric is like hard for some people to imagine, especially kind of when you get some kind of city people who are like used to natural gas.
Yes.
Like, so they're comparing it to that, but just, we don't have natural gas here anyway. So it's propane, which and now the hydro and propane, they're not as big a discrepancy as there once was. So like to go electric makes a bit more sense. So we even tell people too, cause like if you want to go full net zero, you put the solar panels on, but the amount of people who just will say, hey, like let's buy it, see the savings we have anyway, just from having an efficient home. And then from there, if they want to go beyond and go full solar, then they can. But we do get a lot of people just like, hey, let's just see like, I'm not sure the number of who has decided to go solar after that, but
it's actually about a third. And we hope it'll be a half, and we hope the day will come when the Ontario government will allow us to put solar on every home. So we're fighting the Ontario Energy Board right now, but it's up to people's choices. Other people have said, you know, I can think of all these names. I shouldn't maybe say everybody's name every time I think of a comment. But I always try and attribute it to whoever gave me that comment. And he's like, my energy bill is so low. So we've had him on the show, and as he said, you know, at $100 a month, when you look at not the distribution, but the actual energy consumption, and not the debt retirement. But he said, you know, he was 200 and 200 natural gas coming from Kitchener-Waterloo, electricity and natural gas. Now he's 100 for his energy usage. And as he said, I'm not going to worry about that.
Taking that to zero.
Take the next step to go to full solar, because his main floor is so much warmer, or his lower level is so much warmer than his main floor. And his energy bill is approximately annualized $100 a month. So he's our low cost leader who's really studied this. And yeah, some people look at it differently though. And so it's so interesting to hear some of the journeys you've been a part of, walking alongside a lot of these people.
Yeah, and like, I mean, there's definitely the people who just the idea of saying like, hey, my home is all electric, like my car, everything is, right? There's definitely that aspect of it as well.
Oh, it's bragging rights.
Yeah, exactly.
We're going to have a few of those guys. Whereas I'm going to say it. Oh
yeah. It's a niche for sure, but it's also, I think, a growing concern on people's minds, and that energy anxiety too, and the resilience of the homes to be like power interruptions. What happens in the Rideau Lakes area when power goes out and you have no, you've got a home that's leaking all the heat out, or it's warming up because it's hot outside. All those things. I'm sure you can attest to that. Yeah, well, and even really, if anyone has questions on that, like the Gord Cook's videos, like when he explains, like that's the best thing too. And that, because there's been maybe, I think, 2 different people like specifically concerned. One was coming from out west, so they were very concerned about losing power. And if it's all electric, what do we do? And
about if they had a wood stove, like something else.
Right.
So like that was one, because I think, what was it, Gord says it's like, it's not like my house, if the power goes out, like it's going to get cold pretty quickly. Whereas like these homes, it is not I think like what 4 days or something like that without really losing heat, which is hard to believe. I got a couple pretty big drafts and some door ready. But
I know, I'm afraid to get an energy audit on my house.
yeah.
Leaking windows and doors all over the place. It would be really terrible. It'd be really terrible. Being a realtor, though, you also see the activity from the MLS side, because I know you have our listings on MLS, on realtor.ca. Tell me a little bit about the interest in watercolor, because, you know, people that are interested and curious, maybe it's not their next best step, but there's a lot of interest in the community. Mm-hmm. And you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, to get because we have so many listings up there, so sometimes it like to get like the stats from it is tough, because it's, if you put them, if you assume it's different people looking at every one, or if it's but I mean, like realist, like there'd be thousands of views on our listings, and then you can see who favorites them and likes them and follows along. So there's definitely tons of activity on them.
And maybe I should just jump in there and use that as a segue. Yeah, the reason we build so many move-in ready homes is depending on our market. You know, when we were in Ridgeside Farm or Vance Farm or Riding View Estates, sometimes we would build a dozen pre-sales, and then maybe in the spring we'd build 3 move-in readies, and in the fall 3 move-in readies, because we know once they're finished and furnished, you know, within 3 or 4 months they're sold, and then it might take 2 or 3 months, but you know, before the people move in. But generally speaking, it's so advantageous to the consumer because they see it finished and furnished, and then the furniture gives it perspective. And so that's why here there's not much of a demand, quite frankly, we'll be honest, you know, and we're thinking that we won this award from Custom Home Magazine called the Pacesetter Award, and we eventually won America's Best Builder on this idea of even flow construction. Because being a tradesperson through high school, we know that if we have a happy framer, we have happy customers. And as long as he's out there framing a home every 2 weeks, you know, we can deliver 24 defect-free homes at closing. But it's that idea of, you know, we might only get a dozen pre-sales each year, but we'll have, you know, a crop of move-in ready, you know, homes that we're starting sort of
which are a better value to the buyer.
For sure.
Right? Like
yeah.
there is a significant incentive to the buyers for those move-in ready homes.
Yeah, especially because it's us making the selections and stuff, and they're typically discounted because of that. So for sure there is, and on that too, it was that was one. So when phase 1 started, there was always a lot of like other people thinking like, okay, is it just Toronto was going to move to Westport essentially, but one of the funny things that happened would be the amount. So I would say typically phase 1 would be more kind of like the Ottawa and this side of Ottawa, because we would get lots of calls from buyers in Toronto and say like, hey, we want to move there, thinking like 5 years. So like in their head they're thinking, okay, if we want to be in there 5 years, we need to sign now. And then because like they're used to buying in Toronto where you are, and we're like, no, like you can be here next week if you want. Like we have a home ready to go. And like that was like, oh geez, like so I'll call back then like closer to like when I'm ready, and not trying to get 5 years in advance.
We've seen that though. We've seen those people come.
Like from phase 1, it is crazy the amount of people that like they have inquired about phase 1, and here we are in phase 3, and they're still looking and following along. And then so that was like with phase 1 was like, hey, we still need to be in Ottawa a little bit. This is the perfect time. Like we're not quite ready to retire, but this is where we want to be, and we can still go to Ottawa when we need to. So we did do a lot of that, because there was even one, and I use Toronto as the example, but it's not even Toronto. Like there was one guy, he was coming here from Gananoque.
Okay.
And I think it was a condo, and it was a new build condo he was getting, and he had said he was 3 years behind from getting in. And he was like, so his hesitancy was this, like we get like how a lot of questions like, are you guys good for your closing date? Like we have this, but when is it actually going to close? And then you can attest like watercolor has not missed a closing. So that
amazing.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of confidence and peace of mind right there. That you sign, you're going to get your house, you're going to get it on time, on budget. It's ready for you.
Yeah.
And there was just an article in the Star on the weekend about people buying, years in advance of condos or townhomes, and it was heartbreaking for me to read because it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
But when you're in a different market with different players and builders and different motives, then everything changes. Whereas, we're happy to sell pre-sale homes, and maybe the day will come when more and more of our homes will be pre-sale, and then we'll have less of a need to build more move-in ready homes. But just having been a tradesperson, I want to keep one framer just slow and steady, because it's good for everybody. And it's like buying a car. You option up a car and it may not be the options you want, but it's the car you can get very quickly, because very few people buy a car made to order anymore.
My wife is now staging them, so the move-in ready ones all look beautiful, and it stops her from keeps buying stuff for our house. So it's a win. It's a win-win.
And we have some really nice virtual tours. So if you're watching from afar, you can hop online, and all of our staging and all of those beautiful images are available to you on virtual tours. And we use the 3D Matterport as well, which allows you to walk through the home, and you can manipulate the images and measure, and even see if you can fit your favorite sofa in the living room.
Definitely encourage to still come and see it in person too. Like, even the virtual tours are great but they don't do the homes justice as well. Like, definitely come in and see it yourself.
Yeah. She does an amazing job too. It brings the place to life.
And she's being mentored by Brenda McPherson.
Yes, that's
who
right.
we also need to have on this show
Yes.
next time she comes, who was one of our home buyers who turned into our interior designer. And Jan McEachern. Hopefully we'll have Jan McEachern on our show, because John Novak, I just met him, one of our former homeowners from Stittsville who's moved here. And they lived across from Jim and Jan McEachern. So, it's interesting, when you're connected and your buyers and the strengths and abilities of people. Yeah, this whole idea of seeing new homes, like Jan would make them all different, Brenda made them all different. Now we're really, trying to make sure every single move-in ready. It's a lot easier to control it. And that way they are all different, with the much nicer light fixtures someone told us about, making sure we spend more and more resources on different light fixtures.
Yeah, and Hannah's doing a great job. We're really grateful for her efforts on our behalf, and it really is, I think, creating it's inspiration, right? It's using her imagination and then inspiring other people to make it feel cozier and more connected to.
And I mean, it's been working too, because the last few sales have all been right after she's staged them too. So it does make, and even from like buyers, it definitely, to be able to. And I think I heard you say something about buyers can even purchase some of the furnishings. Yeah, for sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So they can just go through a little checklist and say they want certain items, and we're willing to part with them?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We've always done that. And now we're trying to be more responsible and letting people know that's the whole gig is. Victoria has told us many times, if we could just say, like on Valentine's Day, our coach Al Trellis is suggesting, why don't we let the world know, that we have these 4 fresh crop of model homes that no one's ever seen before. Like, no one's seen the Farron with a vaulted ceiling and so many features of taking our Frontenac attached home and making it a single family home and changing a few things. So just the fact that whenever they come,
there's something new and fresh. And beautiful to experience and see. Yeah. Any other tips you want to leave our listeners with, Zach? How to reach you, where to... Yeah. So again, I'm a broker with Rideau Realty in Portland. 613-331-2635 is my cell. And one thing too, I guess, if people are curious about what your property is worth or selling, because that's like, there is no charge. Like, you want a comparative market analysis, check your house out, price it for you. Like, that's a free thing. Just if you want to have an idea of what your property is worth. So always feel free to ask about, ask about that, and happy to help. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And you can also reach you on our website. We also have a link. All my info is on the watercolor website as well. Pretty easy to find me. Easy to find. Yeah. Well, thank you. And a joy to work with.
Yes.
So thank you
Quite
so
a joy.
much. Yeah, it's really a delight to have you on the team, and I know it's just been really nice for us to hear from our buyers and even inquirers that that they're so well cared for. That's something that building community is a trust, and you've developed a really strong sense of trust with everyone that you deal with. So we thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So thanks for joining us today on the Watercolor Westport Stories podcast. We've done a lot of informing and advising, but most of all, we hope we've inspired you. And as Zach said, come and see it. Come and see it for yourself. Walk through a model home, walk through any of the furnished models that we have, and see if you find a better place to call home. You can like, follow, and share this podcast on YouTube, Spotify. We're on the Apple Podcast platform. All the links are below. And reach out to us and let us know if there's any feedback you have about this episode or questions you have even for Zach. We can pass them along and be in touch with you personally. So thanks again for joining us.